All right, well, today we get to finish up our series called Rhythm. And in Rhythm, we're talking about the balance in life between work, worship, rest, and play. And each week we've looked at a different one of these topics, and you came on a good day because today it's play. And that's fun, because we're going to talk about play. Now, some of you are going, oh, great, and you just checked out because you're way too serious. And to waste an entire message on play, you're the very person that needs to hear it. And I pray that God just helps you to embrace this. Because one of the things we talk about work, and work's pretty easy. We all know we need to work. But what suffers is these other areas. And what I want to help you understand today is the value of play. That it's significant, and the Bible is for it. And so that's what we're going to look at. George Bernard Shaw said, "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." And this is so true. I mean, you look at a lot of adults and they get so serious. And especially like here in the Midwest, we've really got this pious kind of, Midwestern Puritan work ethic that life is serious and you got to be serious, and behave. And we just don't play enough. Yesterday we had a funeral in here last night. About 800 people came through. It was huge. And I was standing over by the steps, and a lady comes in, and she's got her little boy. And she gets out his face and goes, "Now we're going into church. So you got to be quiet, and you got to behave, because we're in church." I got down on his face. I said, "Let's have fun. Church should be a blast." Mom just kind of looked at me, I don't think she knew who I was, so I got up to speak. And it was like, oh. Like, as a pastor, wow. Because, who wants a child to grow up with that attitude? This is church. We don't run around. Yeah, we do. Let them run. Have fun. Get an extra donut out there, Send them home. It's that grandparent gene in me. Like, yeah, get candy. Send them out. Always want to leave them happy and sugar-filled, and they'll want to come back. It's amazing because if kids come and have good experience, they'll bring their parents back. They'll go, "I want to go back to that place. That was fun." That's not like churches I've been in, see? That's important. It's important we establish those things in our kids. Church is fun. It's not an obligation. It's not this terrible thing we all have to get dressed up and go there and we're all so tired and all that. It's just sending the wrong signal. My son that led worship today, he's a police officer. And one of the hardest things for him is, when parents come up and they think it's real funny at their kids, say, "See that police officer? You better be good. He'll put you in jail." And then we go, "And if you're ever in trouble, go to a police officer." Why would they? They're afraid of them. Sheesh. Anyway, pet peeve. Now, I realize that there are people that so give their lives to play that they've escaped reality, and they're irresponsible. They just stay up all weekend playing video games, or they get so consumed with a hobby or something like that it consumes their life, and they neglect the other areas. When it starts breaching into our work and worship and rest, then play's out of place. I don't think most of you are in that position, though. I think most of you, that slice of play in the pie of your life is very thin. And so I want to encourage you and maybe just release you today to empower you to take some time to play. Because I believe that play in itself, relaxing, actually the word leisure, the word leisure means to be permitted. So let me leisure you today, that God may lead you into some leisure and play. Because here's the thing, play can be irresponsible, but it can also be an act of faith. It really can. When you're able to step away from work and step away from all those big adult responsibilities and just play, You're saying, God, I trust you with this. I'm going to leave work a little early. I'm going to stop this project at home so I can play, so I can relax, so I can maybe just get out and take a walk, whatever it might be. And here's the thing. If we will learn to play by faith, that will start to affect all the other areas of our life. God honors that. If I trust God that he can take care of me, then I'm free to turn aside from work, not just to play, but also to worship and rest, because all of those three are always competing with work. Now, if you do begin to play, don't take it so seriously. You know, I think I said the first week, some of our problems is we've got it mixed up. We tend to worship our work, play at our worship, and worship our play. We tend, worship our work, play at our worship, and work at our play. Play becomes work when we take it so seriously, and we got to go get lessons and expensive equipment, and we get frustrated because we're not good enough, and we got to get better, or when we have to win. I was talking about having to win in first service, and one wife leaned over her husband, because they both talked to me after service, and he made his son cry last night because his son lost a game. And he goes, no, really, I was just trying to win so we could get him to bed. It was late. So two different sides of it, you know. But sometimes, you know, it's just we get so driven about that. And it's just within our nature that we have to win. And competition's good, you know. But when it affects our relationships and other stuff like that, you know, man, just a game of Uno can get nuts. I mean, is another draw 4? You know, if you really want a good game of Uno, there's a new version out called Uno Flip. You seen this? And you turn, and the cards, somebody plays a card, and you flip the cards over, and even worse things are on the back. Like draw 5 or 7 or something like that, you know. That'll test your marriage. I love that Plato said this. How many thousands of years ago Plato said this? He said, you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation. Isn't that true? You know, how competitive somebody is and how you know, consumed they get with it and everything like that. But the Bible, again, it values play. And Proverbs 17:22 says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. God loves it. He loves joy. He created it. The whole birth of Jesus was surrounded with joy. The angels sang about joy to the world. The Lord has come. God's interaction with us, our life should be filled with fun and joy. And like I said, I realize that there are bad things that we go through and difficult times. But I have seen, even in this funeral last night, and I always see this in funerals, you know, a family that's grieving, but at the same time, there's laughter and joy as they interact with other people and friends and so on. A cheerful heart is like good medicine. And I love this, how it applies to our life. But a crushed spirit dries up the bones. You just picture somebody with dry bones, like arthritis or something, or just dry, and their life's kind of hunched over and unhappy. And there are people like that out there. And what they need more than anything else is just really some joy in their life. But life has maybe been hard on them. And you watch people have a difficult life and how it affects their countenance and their face, and everything tends to be brought in and dried up. And so one of our challenges and opportunities is to not only spread God's love, but to do it joyfully. God values play. In Ecclesiastes, Solomon said this, there is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. I know that there is nothing better for men than to be happy and do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in his toil. This is a gift from God. God has given us the gift of laughter. He's given us the gift to dance, to celebrate, to be happy. This is a gift from God. So we need to embrace it. Like I said, we have this old Puritan view of piety and sobriety and this wrong religious construct in our brains that says life has to be so serious and even serving God has to be serious. And then it becomes this task. It becomes this list of rules that we have to do and not a happy relationship that God wants for us. Even Jesus modeled play. He did. In Matthew 11 it says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they said, here is a glutton and a drunkard. By the way, you don't get called a drunkard from drinking grape juice. So that's the real word there. There was no misinterpretation. A friend of tax collectors and sinners, but wisdom is proved right by her actions. What Matthew is doing is defending Jesus here, and what he's saying is, look, you're critical of Jesus because he hangs out with these kind of people and he parties with them, but the wisdom is proved out by the fruit in their lives, because what Jesus was doing was opening a whole part of the gospel to a segment of the culture that had felt rejected by the religious community. And there's a lot of people sitting in churches this morning, very pious and very proud of their high standard, that wouldn't open their door or their hearts to people that would be considered sinners or drunkards or gluttons. Well, gluttons they would, because that's almost okay sins. Right, in church, right? We don't drink, but man, we sure can eat a lot. All right. As too close to home, I need to keep moving here. Hide behind my little stand, which doesn't hide me very well. Jesus took time to play. He really did. I mean, when Jesus went to a party, he enjoyed it. You know how much? One time he went to a wedding and they ran out of wine. Now the normal thing to do, folks, sorry, the wine's gone. It's time to go home, get an Uber, party's done. Jesus says, hey, I can make more wine. That's kind of irresponsible. You would have to really love people and want to honor this young couple and bless the people there and keep the party going, because Jesus valued that. See? I'm trying to help you here kind of change your thinking in some of these areas, to change your thoughts, because we get so religious and so tied up in knots, and we live for this value of just working all the time and never taking time to relax and have some fun. I'll tell you another reason why I think Jesus was fun and understood play, because kids wanted to be around him. Kids don't want to be around somebody who's cold and religious and walking around judgmental. They run from somebody like that, but kids wanted to be there. And then the religious disciples went, oh no, Jesus is too important for kids. Jesus says, whoa. Takes that kid, draws him around. He says, unless you become like this child, you don't understand what the kingdom of God really is. What is it? It's simple trust in God. It's living your life in such a free way that you can take time away from all the adult responsibilities to be able to enjoy some moments of worship, to be able to enjoy some rest, to put your head down on a pillow at night and really sleep, because you know God's got this. 3 types of play you need in your life. I'll cover these pretty quick. Number 1, you just need recreational play. And recreational play, when I talk about that, especially being outside. Today, this giant thing came out in the sky we hadn't seen for like a month now. It's big and orange. Don't let it scare you. But if you get out today, just take a lap around the building or something here before you get your car, but something. Just get out and absorb some vitamin D. So many people have the colds right now and flu and all of that kind of stuff. Just get out there and absorb that. It's healthy for you. There's never a time that I've gone for a walk, especially in the woods, where I haven't had an encounter with God. You just can't be out in God's creation without acknowledging who he is and his beauty and his sovereignty and just his wonderful peace. And you experience all of that. And I believe that sometimes if we would just get out and drive somewhere to a park and take a walk, it would be so refreshing to us. And all that adult stuff you have to deal with, I believe that God will honor you and give you grace and wisdom to deal with those issues. I really do. Get a hobby. Do something. But again, don't let your hobby become your work. Years ago, I used to love to do photography. And this was back in the day before digital cameras. So film. You got one shot at that thing. If you missed it, oh well. But I'd love to take pictures. I had my own dark room. In fact, years later, my daughter started getting in photography. And I said, good, we'll get you a digital camera. And she said, no, I want to do film. I go, no, you don't. You really don't. No, I want to do film, and I want to get in there and, and develop the film and look at the negatives and make my own prints and everything. I go, okay. So I got on eBay and bought all the stuff and set up a darkroom. She developed one roll of film. And I made one print. And that was it. Because it was complicated and it took time, But I loved it. There was something about just the process and doing it, and a lot of still times in there, and that's one of the great things. But then somebody said one day, hey, I like your photography. Can I pay you to do this? Well, what happened? Well, I started doing more things for pay and more things for pay. And pretty soon it had to be what they wanted, and it wasn't quite what they wanted, and they were frustrated and back and forth. And so guess where my camera went? Up on a shelf, not to be taken down, because I let something that was really enjoyable and a great hobby become work. And this is something we really have to guard. When your hobby becomes work and you're not pursuing it professionally, then you need to back off. Guard that. Second is family play. Family play. When I talk about family play, I'm not talking about pilgrimage to see some mouse. You get my point. I'm talking about, just getting out with your kids and having a game night, or simple trips. It doesn't have to be those big, expensive vacations. And my dad was able to make work out of everything, even vacations. Has anybody ever taken that trip to Washington, D.C. to get around to see everything? Every Smithsonian museum, there's like 8 of them, I think. And my dad wanted to read every plaque. I'm like, Dad, come on. But it's the Hope Diamond. I don't care. I just want to see a bowl of spaghetti or something. I mean, it was just this death march to get through the mall there and all those museums and everything. Come on, we've only got a whole day here. Let's go. Let's get it all in. It's like, Dad, that's not what we need. But we do need times away, especially with our kids. It doesn't have to be fancy. Do a staycation, Do something local. Go visit friends, family, but sometimes it's just the journey. I remember one time, I was going somewhere, and Faith was going to go with me, my daughter. She was like preteen or the teen right about that time. And so I go, this is going to be really good. We're going to get to bond. And because I spent a lot of time with her brother Clayton, and it's almost that kind of unwritten thing. You raise the girl, I'll raise the boy. And but, we realize girls need their dads too. We give them that approval and so on, and that's important. So Faith and I were making this trip. For 2.5 hours, I listened to Britney Spears. Wow. I was just gripping that steering wheel. I'll hit you, baby, one more time. It's like, it was horrible. And the conversation was so inane. You know, it's just about all the friends and what they're doing. And like, yeah. But then it turned. And she started talking about her faith and her relationship with God. It took 2.5 hours for her to relax and be able to get all the unimportant stuff out to me, and for her to feel safe and be able to talk about what was really important to her and to me. And it was just a process you got to go through. And I'm glad I did. I still kind of traumatized when I hear Britney Spears, but, you know, I trigger something, I start to twitch, but, you know. But that time with faith, if I had to do it again, I think I would, because it was so valuable. Oh, let me scoot along. Marriages suffer from lack of marital play. They really do. There's a great picture of this in Genesis. Isaiah has a wife, Rebekah. And it's funny how the sins of the fathers get passed on, because one time Abraham, his father, and Sarah, his mother, had gone into this town, and I guess there was this thing back then where they would kill the husband to take the wife. And so somehow if that was your sister, it was better. So Abraham pawned Sarah off as his sister. Well, Isaac does the same thing with his wife, Rebekah. And we see this in Genesis 26. And it came to pass, when they had been there a long time, Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, looked out a window, and he saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife. Yeah, right out there in public, sporting. Y'all look really uncomfortable right now. How many have no clue what sporting is? Yeah. They were sporting. And they were so sporting that they were so into it that the king recognized they must be married. Now, the NIV decided to, fix this. So they used the word caressing, which is a whole nother way of looking at it. You know what the word sporting actually means there in the Hebrew? To laugh. It wasn't they were all over each other physically, but a king looks out a window and suddenly he can tell these two people are married because of the unique laughter they shared among themselves. Isn't that interesting? Would laughter kind of define your relationship? Would people be able to look at you and see the intimacy at that level in public? That they must be married. They must be really close. Look at the joy they share among themselves. Play is valuable. It's an act of faith. We trust God enough to play. Now, with just a few minutes left here, I'm going to actually merge the message I was going to do next week into this, because I think you get the idea of play. And the next part of this is pretty simple too, because what I want to talk to you about, because it ties these things together. It's one thing to come in here and talk about in church worship, work, rest, and play, and go, yes, all those are important. I'm going to balance them in my life, and then go out and not make any adjustments. But there's a key phrase here that I want you to get, and I think it ties this together, and that's this phrase, simplicity. I think the way we make this happen is something's got to give. And one thing we're going to have to do is simplify our life if we're going to be able to worship, rest, and play. The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians these words. He says, "But I fear that somehow you will be led away from the pure and simple devotion to Christ, just as Eve was deceived by the Spirit." Now, there's a lot there. Think about what Paul was saying. He goes, I don't want you to be led away from what? A simple and pure faith. Faith is not complicated. If a child can understand it, and Jesus calls us to a childlike faith, then it shouldn't be that complicated. It's not. I mean, I've spent my entire life at least over 40 years studying the Bible. And there's still parts that I struggle with and parts I don't have down. But the core of my faith, I understand from when I was small. I was lost. I was dead. And Jesus made me alive. It made me part of his family. And he loves me as a father. That's all you need to know. If you get that, you can build your whole life around that, if you embrace that truth. Now think about this. This is Eve, though, he's using as an example. Satan enticed her and deceived her into leaving that faith. Now, this is hard to comprehend. This is Eve. This is in the Garden of Eden. Everything was perfect. Perfect weather, perfect conditions. She has the perfect man. I mean, she was literally made for Adam. Made from Adam. These two are intimately close. The world is a perfect place. There's nothing that could tempt them except this thought. And what the enemy used to tempt her and what he uses to tempt us. One word. More. You can have more. You need more. If you just get more of this, you'll be happy. If you take more of this, you'll look better. If you just do more of this, people will like you more. Because after all, life is about more. And that's what we're always pursuing. And why we work harder and play harder, because everything is about more and more and more. And more is always a moving target that's just out of reach. He convinced her, you're missing out. Your life is not complete. Yes, you're eating from the tree of life, and that's wonderful, but there's more. There's more knowledge. You can be like God. You can be this. Satan was the first marketing executive. I mean, think about it. He's selling her something. He's establishing a need for a product and then providing that product. More. I mean, think about it. It's American. It's how we live. We live for more. We're taught to have more. I was speaking at Brownsburg High School to a group of students the other day on Friday, and I asked them, I said, how many are excited about the Super Bowl? How many want to see the Chiefs win? And they went, eh. I said, how many want to see the 49ers win? Eh. I said, how many are going to watch just for the commercials? And they went, yeah. It's Super Commercial Day. That's what it's about. They're going to sell us stuff, and we're going to celebrate it. Why? Because that's what Americans do. We embrace it. Crazy, isn't it? But that's how we're wired. I like what G.K. Chesterton said. Old English guy said this. There are two ways to get enough. One is to continue to accumulate more and more, and the other is to desire less. Just controlling those desires. You know, isn't it funny how something will start out just as a little desire? I think I'd like to have that. I like that they have that. They seem to enjoy that. And it turns into, I really want that. Well, I've been researching these a lot. You know, we really need this. Well, we're going to get this. When are we going to get it? What's the best deal? Oh, we can't find a good deal because we got to have it. Now we have it. Oh, this thing is so much work. What are we going to do with this? Let's sell it. Let's buy something else. Yeah, we're like that, aren't we? Jesus said in Luke 12, beware, don't be greedy for what you don't have. Real life is not measured in how much we own. The Roper organization did a study years ago, and they asked people in the $15,000 to $30,000 range in income, just kind of starting out, how much do you think you're going to need to be really happy and to hit your goals where you want to in life? And they said probably between $50,000 and $60,000 a year, just double. Then they asked people making $50,000 and $60,000 a year, what do you think it will take to really fulfill what you want to and live comfortable? Probably 100 to 120. And then they asked people at that level. It was always double, which is crazy because most people are not going to double their income in life. So they are going to be chasing something that's going to be hard to attain and something that's just not going to last. The old bumper sticker says, he who dies with the most toys wins. Like the other one says, he who dies with the most toys still dies. It doesn't matter what you have. Jesus said, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust can destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, that's where your heart's going to be also. Where you invest, what you hold on to. And we're going to get at the end of our life and realize you can't take it with you. I love this Gary Larson cartoon. And it says, oh no, it's George. He is taking it with him. It's all going up with him, golf clubs, everything. No hearse ever has a trailer on it. It's just truth. You don't take it with you. And the sad thing is, a lot of people hold on to things that could really make a difference in this life, make a difference in eternity. But they hold what they have so tightly that it becomes not part of their life of faith, but almost separate. And so God's never included in that. So he can't use that to bless them and entrust them with more to be more of a blessing. That heirloom that you're holding on to, if Aunt Susie, put it to work in the kingdom. If she was in heaven speaking to you, she'd look over heaven and go, sell it. Help people with it. It's not doing any good where it's at. Because I believe there will be this time in heaven where somebody's going to come up and tap you on the shoulder and say, that time you gave to this, the time you invested, that time you helped this person, I'm here because of it. That's what it comes down to. It's that critical. And sometimes it is your gift of time. But other times it's our resources. It's what we're trusting in. And one of the ways to show that our trust is in God is to give up the other stuff that we've been trusting in. To say, God, you really are first. In 1 Timothy, I'll close with this. Paul writes, a devout life does bring wealth, but it's the rich simplicity of being yourself before God. Since we entered this world penniless, and we're going to leave penniless, if we have bread on the table and shoes on our feet, that's enough. A lot of my counseling with people is afraid that they're not going to have enough, but it's always in the future. And sometimes I'm not trying to, be mean or insensitive to them, but I'll ask them, have you eaten today? Well, yeah. Did you drive here okay? Sure. Do you have a house? Yes. Does your car have its own house? Yes. We have a garage. So you have a house, your car has a house, your pets have a house. You're all good in housing. How's tomorrow looking? I don't know. Well, I think when you get up tomorrow, God's going to take care of you then too. And if you need wisdom in how you're going to meet those needs tomorrow, I believe his wisdom and resources will be there. But you can't solve tomorrow's problems with today's grace. So if you bring all the problems you have and sort them into two piles, what's a real today problem and what's a future problem? Ignore those future problems. Focus on what is today. Now, there may be decisions you need to make today to affect your life down the road. I get that. But until you have to make that decision, I talked to somebody this week, and they had this complicated situation or thing, and then finally they came, but we really won't know anything for another 3 months. And I go, wait a minute, why didn't you tell me it sooner, It's like, you can't even make a decision yet. Yes, but we're going to have to. And I go, and you're stressed about it now? There's no reason for it. This is time to go, thank you, God, that today everything's good. And when I need to make a decision, you're going to give me that wisdom. I've trusted God in those areas. He's never let me down to not share with me what I needed on that day. So live for today, as Jesus said. He said tomorrow's got enough problems of its own. Enjoy life. Yes, you've got to work. Do it unto God. Take moments to worship. Take time to rest. And you rest best when you lay your head on that pillow at night and say, God has got my life. He's working on my behalf. And even while I sleep, He's taking care of things and working to make my life better. And that'll help you, as Proverbs said, for your sleep to be sweet. And play. Because playing is an act of faith that said, my dad runs everything. He has endless resources. He's crazy about me. And I can relax trusting that He's got my back. He's going to take care of me. Let's pray.